situation was very chaotic with tear gas everywhere. Now, police officers reached up to the extent of Jamia, and then the protesters moved back and towards Kenyatta Avenue. And at that point is when several officers were trapped between the protesters, and of course, the protesters were throwing projectiles at them. So now that group there is just carrying leaves outside the road. This other group here has lit a bonfire right in the middle of the road, and then police officers will stand on the other side of Kenyatta Street, making their way down towards the protesters.
That's what we want to do now.
Is that? What's he saying? So, I've spoken to a colleague in Karachi of NTV. He has just informed me that the police officer who was caught in between the protesters outside Tekwat building here in CBD has just been rushed to Kenyatta National Hospital. He is injured, that we know. He has been rushed to Kenyatta National Hospital, so we can authoritatively report that one police officer has been injured and has been rushed to Kenyatta National Hospital. So this is to say that So we just looked at the space. Just quickly, we're speaking to Kenyans.co.ke. My name is Sam. Can you tell us what has happened here?
So while we were protesting, we were called, one officer had called a lady officer. So we don't know if it was a tear gas canister that hit her or if it's a stone. But we managed to control the crowd around her. We lifted her and rushed her to the nearest ambulance. The ambulance we were able to offer first aid services, and we made sure she's stable. After she was stable, the ambulance rushed her to the hospital. We are also performing the first aid. Another officer came with bleeding cheek. We are also able to perform first aid. And we are saying police are not our enemies. We are here, all of us, demanding for justice for our Mashuja. And this is why we are here today. So we are calling everyone, including the police, please stop using excessive force. Kenyans are largely, they are not even, engaging in any lawlessness. So if the police can control their actions, if the police can stop tear gassing, Kenyans will be peaceful in the street. So please, let's maintain peace. This protest is for our fallen comrades. We don't want any more deaths, any more casualties from either side. Either the protesters or the police, we don't.
Have you seen any protesters that have been injured from all this?
Yes, we've performed first aid on a number of protesters. They were hit by tear gas canisters, others fell down while they were running. So yes, we have casualties here and there, but at least up to this point in time, we have any reported cases of fatalities. And we are hoping that it stays that way. We don't want any incident of anyone losing their life from either side, either the police or the protesters. We don't need that.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. That is Hussein Khalid, the CEO of Vocal Africa, who just informed us that at least 2 officers have been injured. As we said earlier, there's a group of protesters here. This is the group that was at City Market earlier on. So they're making their way towards Kenyatta Avenue, as we had indicated earlier. So here they are charging towards police officers. Now, where we are at right now, we are in between Koinange Street and Mwindimbingu Street. Now, there's a group of police officers on Mwindimbingu Street, a whole truckload, who have blocked the road. Now, protesters are throwing stones at police officers on Kenyatta Avenue, and police are responding in kind with tear gas as well. That was loud. So yeah, the protesters are in between Pioneer House here and of course along Koinange Street. Now, these officers that have been placed at Mwindimbingu Street have also been throwing tear gas at the protesters along this road near Nation Center as well. So it's a multi-pronged approach by the police officers in an attempt to disperse all the protesters who are gathered here in the CBD at the moment. So there is a huge fume from the tear gas that has just been fired. And as I said moments earlier, we're speaking to the Vocal Africa CEO and activist Hussein Khalid was just confirmed to us here at kenyastateco.ke that at least 2 police officers have been injured, one seriously injured, rushed to Kenyatta National Hospital, and the other one was just receiving first aid and has gone back to his contingent. So that's the up to now. We'll try and find more action this other side on Kenyatta Avenue and bring that to you as well. So as I have said a number of times, there is a group along Nation Center agitating near Jamia Mosque. There's a group on Koinange Street, and there's a group on Muindi Bindu Street. And then there's another one at Imenti House. So we'll try and bring you these various angles of all this as it happens.
Kenyastateco.ke. Still can't hear you. I think
Confirm. No. Let me see. Way safer. Oh, I think we can introduce that part. There seems to be different kinds of people. Reporting accurate. You're like in between.
We've made our way up Kenyatta Avenue. Right now we are at GPO at the moment, the GPO stage next to KCB Bank. And up here is Uhuru Highway. Now, down there, as you can see, the situation is getting very chaotic. As we said, protesters have lit some bonfires down there. Now, there's a lot of confusion at the moment. Now, there's a group of protesters that is on Koinange Street and Banda Street as well, and also Loita Street. And then there's a group of protesters that are outside Imenti House down there. There's a group of protesters that are down there. And then now a large contingent of them along Windimbingu Street. Now, where we are at the moment, we can see from a distance, police have fired different color of tear gas, green in nature. And at the moment, as we say, there's also another group of protesters that have been up here. There's police officers up there. These ones here have not been disturbed at all. Here is where Okio Mutata earlier in the day made his way, passed through, and then went all the way to Haile Selassie, then downwards, and then back to Kimathi Street. So we're trying to make our way downwards and see what the situation is. We make our way down and see what is happening in between. We can see a large group of protesters that are making their way up. At the moment, up here, there's a very small contingent of police officers near Uhuru Highway here at GPO. So we'll wait and see. The largest group of police officers are near Mwindi Bingu Street. And then there's an ambulance there trying to make its way up. And as I said, very many large groups of protesters. Now, where we are at earlier in the day, there are police officers stationed at Nyayo House. They're the ones who are firing tear gas at protesters who are on Kenyatta Avenue. Then there's a group of police officers who are making rounds in two police vehicles. Now, whenever those two police vehicles make their way anywhere near protesters, they are firing tear gas with disregard. Now, those officers at the moment have disappeared. We haven't seen them for a few minutes. Well, the last time we were near previous Tusky supermarket here at Kenyatta Avenue, we showed the shots of those police officers who are making their rounds with their vehicles. But at the moment, there's a group of protesters on Loita Street, there's a group of protesters on Mwindi Bingu Street, there's a group of protesters on Koinange Street at the moment. That's the situation. Tear gas canister. There's a group of motorbike guys here playing football with a tear gas canister. And that has been the situation all day. Some Kenyans have just been singing along, like the ones there, they're just but singing, nothing more. And then there are these ones here playing with a tear gas canister, a huge contingent of motorbike guys, as we said. So we're trying to go and show you the situation along Parliament. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make our way there and show you the situation as is. Now, there's another group of protesters that is making its way from up here. There's another group of protesters making their way from up here. And as I said, it's been a fluid day, a lot of action, including Okio Mutatas, whose guard has been injured and rushed to hospital. As we told you earlier, confirmed by Hussein Khalid, who was doing the first aid, one police officer has also been injured, rushed to Kenyatta National Hospital. So, as we said, here we are at Nyayo House at the moment. We're trying to see how the situation is at. A group of protesters has come from Uhuru Highway and are joining with this group here. And then you have another group that has been standing here outside GPO. And then there is another group that is down there at the Mental House. Now that group is the one that has had a lot of fracas and a lot of confrontation with police officers. So we wait and see where these ones are headed. But as I said, that's the situation at the moment. A large group of police officers now coming to beef up the security along this road. And there you are. There you are. Tear gas has just been fired. Tear gas has just fired. Tear gas has just been fired. Tear gas canisters have just been fired here at Kenyatta Avenue. And police are trying to disperse a large group of youth that have gathered here. As I said, there's a group that is on Loita Street, there's a group that is on Banda Street, and there's a group that is also at Mundi. So we'll wait and see what happens. Okay, so what happens for those police. Now, as I said, the protesters are throwing stones. They're trying to keep some distance to keep safe. The protesters are hurling stones at the police officers. And there's one that has braved the tear gas to just join. As I said, the situation has been a bit interesting here. There's one protester trying to make his way and agitate. The groups are from anti-riot police. We'll try and see what the situation is like. As I had indicated moments earlier, there's a group of protesters that were making its way from Uhuru Highway down towards Kenyatta Avenue. And then there's a huge group of protesters that is actually on Kenyatta Avenue. And then there's another group that is on Banda Street. There's a group that is on Loita Street. Now, if my camera person can give you a wide shot of down there, you can see the large group of protesters that are down there. Just a few scattered on the upper side, but then the largest group, the largest contingent is down there, concentrated at the Bank of India, and concentrated there. We'll try to make our way back there, where the action is, to just give you the situation at the moment. But as I said, it seems police officers have marked this area. Whenever protesters are making attempts to get to Uhuru Highway, they're dispersed immediately. But as I say, down there, if you can see, if we have a wide angle down there, we get to see what is happening. So we're trying to make our way back and then towards the protesters again. As I said, you don't want to be caught in between the police officers and the protesters, because moments earlier we were caught in there and the tear gas and the stones were being hurled over our heads, and it's not a nice situation to be in. But as I said, we'll try and make our way down. These are APS police officers. They're Vesta reading APS. They're stationed here at my house. They're stopping protesters from making their way past the GPO of Huduma Center. And then there's a group of protesters who are on the motorbike. There's a huge contingent of protesters up here making their way from Integrity Center. There's a huge group of protesters making its way from Integrity Center. As you can see up there, a very huge group of protesters. And then police officers who are manning the roundabout are firing tear gas canisters at them. If you can see there, up there at Community, near Nairobi Serena Hotel, there's a large group of protesters that is also making its way down. So as I said, we are right at the center of the action at the moment. So down here, protesters, up here, protesters making their procession downwards. They don't seem to have been interfered with so far. Let's see what police do, because every time anyone has come close to this situation, they have fired tear gas canisters at them. Rodney, if Rodney can show you the number of protesters that are up there. And as I said, that's the ambulance, I believe a similar ambulance that was rushing the police officer to Kenyatta National Hospital a few moments earlier. So as I said, there's a group of protesters coming from up here, as you can see. And then there is a large group of protesters down here. Now we'll try and make our way down. We'll try and make our way down and show you what is happening at the moment.
What you're looking at.
We'll try.
Having a standoff with
this situation here. So we want to go downwards and show you the situation there. But as I've indicated, community there are a lot of protesters making their way towards Kenyatta Avenue. We'll see whether they are stopped. But as that is happening down here, fumes are everywhere. Police are firing tear gas canisters every few seconds. Ultimately, the situation is simply chaotic. Now, what is problematic about that group is that there are several roads that can lead you to State House where they are at. And there are a lot of police officers stationed around this place. You understand State House Road has been barricaded, so no one is making their way there. And they are on the lane that takes you down from Community Center through Kenyatta Avenue towards the CBD. So let's walk our way to the CBD and show you the situation there. These water cannons were positioned outside the Supreme Court, and now they are washing out the protesters that are outside Bank of India on Kenyatta Avenue. As I say, that has been the action point all day. Now, these protesters are the same group that was dispersed earlier. They're now back on Kenyatta Avenue. This group went to Loita Street, some of them in Nimbingu Street, and now all of them have congregated outside Bank of India. And as you can see from a distance, police are now launching their water cannon at them. So we'll get there in just a moment. But there's still a group of protesters making their way down through Koinange Street and through Loita Street to try and get back to the protesters who are also down here. As I say, there are several number of groups. They're not all united, they're not all the same. So there are several number of groups of protesters right in between the capital city at the moment. Now the water cannon is retreating at the moment. We'll try and get there in just time to show you that. Here you are. The large group of protesters are, as I said, police officers are stationed there. There you are. Began firing tear gas at them. The protesters are here. They're making their way towards the Parliament, towards the road that leads you. Parliament Road here on Cardinal Otunga Street. We'll wait and see whether they're allowed to pass. But as I say, there's a huge contingent of police officers here. There's a large group of protesters here. There's another group of protesters down there. We don't want to be caught in between. And now they're making their way up. They're making their way up. We'll wait and see where they go to. But they're making their way up. Some of them are making their way up, others are making their way towards Cardinal Otunga Street. We'll wait and see. But then there's another group that is down there, right at the Bank of India, where the water cannons are. So it's several groups of protesters, all doing different things at the moment. So we'll give you an update as we get it right now. So this group of protesters, including Boda guys, are trying to make their way towards Cardinal Otunga Street. You know, that's a no-go zone for police officers here at Nyayo House. And of course, the police officers haven't fired. Moments ago, they fired tear gas canisters towards. Now, this group that is making its way towards Cardinal Otunga is part of the group that was making its way from Community Center. They've used the route behind the KCB Bank here, Pioneer House, that's Loita Street, and now on Koinange Street, and trying to make their way to Banda Street. If you remember last year, once they got Otunga Street, they were right at the face of Parliament. So where we are at the moment, it looks very tricky for police officers. Now down there, protesters are also charging at the officers near the Supreme Court as well. So it's a situation where both groups of protesters, police officers haven't moved in yet. That huge truck that we showed you, that huge truck of police that we showed you, has just retreated towards Nyayo House. So, as I say, we are trying to show you both the action and cases. The officers are stationed there and there, but they're not attacking yet. Now, here is a group of protesters here, and if my cameraman Rodney can just show you a wide view angle up there and show you the number of protesters down there as well. You can see that group down there as well. So it's two different groups of protesters, and as I said, we're trying to get closer. Now, there's another group of protesters that is making their way from up here. And this is the group that I was saying that was behind Loita Street, joining these protesters that are on trying to get to Cardinal Otunga Street. So at the moment, thousands are at Kenyatta Avenue. Thousands of protesters have congregated at Kenyatta Avenue. The ones here at GPO, there is no tear gas canisters fired at them yet. But the ones that are down there, police have fired tear gas at them several times. Police have fired tear gas canisters at them several times. So we'll wait and see what happens at the moment. So we're trying to make our way down to give you all the action. We'll try and make our way down and give you the full action. As I say, the large group of protesters here, have been making their way. This is the group that was chased by police officers moments earlier. And as I say, it's in their thousands. It's in their thousands. It's in their thousands, if you can see. protesters just protesting and making their way up.
Bro, come. Go macho.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Papa.
This is a group that has Okiya Omtata with them. This is a group that has had Okiya Omtata with them all day. This is a group that has had Okiya Omtata, and they're making their way up again. As I said, whenever protesters are getting anywhere near the GPO center, police are firing tear gas at them. So the situation is hide and seek at the moment. Okiya Omtata is with this group here. He's attempting to go towards the Uhuru Highway at GPO here. Let's see whether he makes it. He has been making rounds the city all day long. Okiya Omtata, the senator from Busia County. Now, the whole group that was down there at Himenti has also made its way up. The whole group has made their way up, and they're now moving towards Uhuru Highway. As I said, a huge contingent of police officers have been stationed at Nyayo House and have been firing tear gas at will, at protesters. One tear gas canister has been fired back. And as I say, police have begun firing tear gas once again. Whenever protesters reach...
protesters going up Kimani Street. The situation in Nairobi.
And police have begun once again firing tear gas.
Tear gas in there.
It's a very interesting gesture. They've got a group of protesters making their way down. You know, here, this is the point where, by the way, interestingly, all distances in Kenya are measured here. And that's why we are behind, this is right behind
These are some of the sentiments
on Kalinotinga Street. Tear gas has been fired at us from Kenyatta Avenue by the officers stationed at Nyayo House. You can hear
what they keep repeating from what we keep hearing.
Tear gas is really stinging.
That this is Independence Day for them. It's people of all.
We try to move to a different location.
Again, we have more protesters coming from Tomboya Street, heading up to Kimathi. This is the group that police had pushed all the way to bus station. They're advancing, and they're joining the rest of the group that has decided to converge. the intersection just outside Standoff Stadium. You have police firing tear gas from Kenyatta streets, all the way from GPO. They managed to push the protesters all the way back. As you can see in your screen, on your screen, this is the current situation at CBD. No one wants to back down. The police don't want to back down. The protesters are not backing down. And the flashes you're getting, that's tear gas. The flashes you're getting, that's tear gas from the police. I don't know if you guys can hear the loud band. But that's the current situation in CBD. We're going to try and have a look at Kenyatta Street. So right at Nation Center, the protesters are advancing towards Nation Center. The police are firing tear gas
A bunch of people are coming in
towards them.
the protest.
You can hear the flashbangs. You can hear the chants.
We are not sure what will be watching.
It's Ruto must go.
But we will keep it
Again, we have one group all the way at Nation Center. We have another group advancing by Kenyatta Street. And that junction right there is no man's land. We're gonna advance. You can hear the loud
We have said, and I've shown you all day, this is a group of protesters that were making their way from Imenti House. They're here at the intersection of Koinange Street and Kenyatta Avenue. They're making their way up towards GPO. Police have been firing tear gas every time the protesters get close to Nyayo House, and the group is insisting on moving towards the police officers and the tear gas and soldiering on towards the Uhuru Highway.
this side,
and that side.
it's getting very
We do know
dangerous.
Kio Mutata made it through. We don't know whether the
We're
rest
gonna
will be
try
able to
and
make it through.
approach Kenyatta
And as I
Street
said,
from,
it's been a
this other
serious
direction
group. And of course, the group
to
here
make sure
following,
that
Larry Mado there,
we're safe.
he's trying to also make his way up
But,
towards the Uhuru
the situation
Highway
is
Avenue. And there you are, the
you
sounds
can
of
see,
tear gas canisters continuing being
police are
fired
hailing
here.
tear
Now,
gas.
we want to show you the situation
protesters
in the whole of the
are
capital. As we say, this is the action center,
throwing
Kenyatta
stones.
Avenue. This has been the action center. Now we want to show you the other sides of the capital and the things that have happened already.
It's a game of
So,
who's
of
gonna.
course, as we are saying, this is a group of the protesters who are making their way
Who's gonna
through
retreat?
Bingu Street, and we're going to try to
And
show
who's gonna
everything that has been happening. So here
advance.
they are. Earlier on, the police engaged them, but then left. Of course, they left, and of course now are joining them. They have all fallen back towards Nyayo House,
This is,
and where they're now setting up their barricade there at the moment. So I want to show you the situation down here as well, because police,
There's a group
a huge
here.
group of police officers are making their round there.
appears
as
to
we
be
say,
uniformly
there are
dressed.
another group of protesters there making their
Holding
voices
up
heard. Now, here's a group of
signs.
protesters on Koinange Street. This is a group that has been very vocal. They're the group
this
that have
side, it's
all
fairly-
stood their ground against the police officers
fairly
who are
calm compared to
advancing
what's
at them.
happening
Now, there's another
Kimathi Street.
fireball that has been just lit there. So we're going towards downtown. As we say, one protester
Again,
is just sleeping on the road there.
this
No police,
is,
okay.
Wednesday,
There's
June
another large group, a bonfire on
25th.
Koinange Street. A bonfire has
And
just been
exactly
lit
365
Kenyatta
days
Avenue.
ago,
And as I said, police officers
people
are in
came
between the protesters
into the
at,
city.
at the Bank of India right now. Police on their
And,
horses. They're trying to again disperse the
message was the
protesters,
same.
which they have
They
done.
did not
all
want a
day.
finance
So we're
bill.
gonna try and get ahead there.
or
This
they
side,
did not want
of
that
course, as I told
finance
you,
bill.
police officers at Nyayo House, protesters this way.
And
And we'll try and walk towards the end to show you. They are the police officers on their horses trying to disperse the protesters who are at around Imenti House. And up here, as I've told you,
we're gonna see if we can get
the GPO. Now, police are pushing them back as well. Police have started pushing
to
them.
one of
The other protesters who are
young
down
people
here as well. So, as I said, a couple of police officers were
But,
caught in between the protesters. One has been rushed to Kenyatta National Hospital.
When
That
you
we
come
know
into
so
Kaunda
far.
Street,
Now, there
this
is
is
the
really
barricade the police are forming. A wall of men they are forming
like
with their
another
horses.
land.
And the police officers
no flashbangs here, no protesters here. Just a group of police
up there as
officers
well, have made their
and
way,
journalists.
are trying to make their way down as well. They started walking backwards as well as police have repelled them. There's a number of police officers that are stationed at the roundabout. The group that was coming from community has also arrived at the roundabout, as I said earlier. So let us show you the situation right at the heart of the CBD here. There is the wall of police officers, the group of police officers that have now, in essence, made that the protesters that are at GPO right now are in between two groups of police officers. Those officers down there and these officers that are stationed at Nyayo House at the moment. So we are live. We're bringing you this action live. There's a group of protesters along Koinange Street. There's a group of protesters on Windimbingu Street. There's a group of a huge contingent of police officers that are stationed right there outside Bank of India as they try and find a way of stopping the protesters that are also down there from making their way up. Now, if my camera person Rodney can show you the picture down there, you can see there's a bonfire outside City Hall. There's a bonfire outside City Hall, and it's been lit by protesters who made their way through that road. And as I said, this has been an action point all day.
Hello.
Protesters along the street.
So we're going back to
Now, these protesters who have been here had been pushed earlier by police towards Nation Center. They came back, made their way to Kenyatta Avenue, connected to the protesters that were down there. At the moment, the largest contingent of protesters is outside GPO Center, and then there are another group that is agitating down there. And you can hear police are firing at them. They're firing tear gas canisters at them to try and separate them. We'll try and find some shelter. Police are firing in the sky to try and disperse protesters. As I said, City Hall has been a target today. As you can see, City Askaris are standing guard. City Askaris are standing guard to try and protect the area because protesters had arrived there and they had already, removed some of the. As you can hear, police helicopter is in the sky as well, manning the air as well to try and disperse protesters. We're going to try and make our way towards the police officers who are down here.
Let's cross over.
They've been firing live ammunition in the sky as well. So as I said, that large group of protesters that is down there,
Okay.
So as I said, this group is here, then police officers are down here. This is where water cannons were being fired at protesters on the street. Now the protesters have made their way up, and as I said, there's still some action down here. We have shown you what is happening up there. We're going to show you what is happening down here. We're going to have to wear our masks at this area because tear gas is stinging at this area. As you can hear, police are still firing at protesters down here. And that has been the situation all. There you go. The sounds of police firing at protesters. Again, the protesters up here as well, along Kenyatta Avenue, near PPU. And the protesting group that is Jamia, at Jamia
And there we
Mosque,
have a man who was
police
just
have also
beaten,
fired at them. Now, these are several
being
groups of
dragged away.
protesters. There's someone hiding behind this here and throwing objects at the police officers as well. And as I say, this is the situation along.
I'm just coming here. I don't want to...
There are the police officers trying to charge at the protesters at the moment. These protesters are along that street that connects you to, of course, INM Bank. And as I said, police have fired a lot of water cannon here. A lot of water cannons here. So, if you have an idea of where we are at right now, just paint a picture. This is this is the building Uganda House. This is Uganda House. Police officers have now begun charging at protesters. We're gonna just leave them to do their job. They are pushing towards the protesters who are throwing stones back at them and firing tear gas canisters at them. So the sounds of the CBD feels like a bombardment. A large number of police officers now. They are caught in between the two groups of protesters. The ones up there, the ones down here, and the ones here have their horses as well. There's another group of police that is next to Saroba Stanley Hotel that are firing at protesters along Imenti House. And then there's this group of police now that is in between the two that is firing towards the protesters along Kenyatta Avenue at GPO, the largest group of protesters yet.
From what we see, Madi Street. This street is fairly calm.
So this is the aftermath of that water cannon that was
Japanese cuisine. Yes,
unleashed.
get it all. With Asia Odyssey travel,
Police have begun firing tear gas at them in a bid to disperse them. And now this is the aftermath.
Clean, safe country.
So this water cannon is the one that we've shown you earlier. It was stationed down there at the gates of the Supreme
Visit
Court.
vibrant
The water
cities,
cannon here is the
dive
one
into
that
rich culture,
the Supreme Court.
experience the Shinkansen bullet train, stay in 4-star premium hotels.
Even the horses are reacting to the
Springtime
gunshots,
cherry
the
blossom
rapid
themed
gunshots that are being had here.
Or prefer your
at the
own
moment.
style? Skip the group
That's
and
our tear
tailor
gas
your
canisters
Japan
being fired at
vacation with
protesters.
us.
As I say,
Book now.
so these
Your
officers
journey
here
to Japan
are
begins
tasked with
here.
stopping the protesters down there from making their way up. And then the officers in between here were retreating right now. These officers are retreating back. A huge group of protesters has been stationed at GPO all day, and they are the ones that are pushing back these officers who we shared with you earlier. We're trying to charge at them. So
Streets. You can see the police holding protesters back. We've seen a few protesters throwing stones and rocks, and the police returning tear gas and firing tear gas to disperse them and hold them back. It's 12 p.m.
As we had showed you earlier, there was a different group of protesters
See, that was
were
1:70
trying to
this
make
morning.
their way
Now it's
around
full of life.
Moy Avenue and mostly at archives. Then there's the group of protesters that were trying to access the Cardinal Otunga Street. They were pushed back. Now, at the moment where we are at, this is Standard Street, and then that connects you to, of course,
You can see police advancing on
of course, and
horseback.
also, this is the road where a number of protesters were trying to make their way towards the Supreme Court.
And a
They were
huge
pushed
crowd
back
on Kenyatta
Mabera Street.
Avenue
They were pushed back.
advancing
See, a
towards
huge
Moy
contingent of police
Avenue.
officers here. And the
Nation
officers that were
Center.
there have started pushing upwards
Hundreds
towards the
of
protesters that are on
protesters.
Kenyatta Avenue. So we want to show you the action from down
Wielding
there.
palm
We've shown you the
branches.
action from up there. We want to show you the situation
Kenyan
in and around
flags.
this area. As you can hear, a lot of tear gas canisters are being fired at the protesters. Now, a huge contingent of police officers also on this road. What these police officers are doing is to ensure that the Supreme Court remains a place that is persona non grata. If you're not a member of the press, you're not allowed to pass through this street. The water cannon vehicle is still stationed there. Another one is also stationed down there, ready to also repel any protesters. Police on their horses are also here, and
Stay
they're
away
still
from
firing
it.
tear gas canisters at the protesters. I had told you.
Tear gas
So let's
canisters
try and
which
make our
have
way
not
back
gone off
and
yet
show you the other side of the street.
and can be very
Just slowly,
dangerous.
as I said, the group of protesters that were up
They
there
explode
have
here.
been repelled. And as I had told you earlier, police officers at Nyayo House are doing the job of preventing anyone from joining the parliament way, and of course detaining the protesters along Kenyatta Avenue all day long. Now, the only person that made his way through was Secretary Kenyatta, and the president of protesters all the way to the highway, then downwards towards Parliament, went to Haile Selassie Avenue, then down all the way to Moy Avenue, and after that, they went through to Kimathi Street. We caught up with Senator Kenyatta when he was saying that one of his group members was injured and rushed to hospital. Senator Kenyatta once again charged through the Kenyatta Avenue, was allowed to pass, and went through again to the highway, trying to catch up with him again, try and find him down here as well. So, huge number of police officers outside the Supreme Court as we are indicated to you. We want to use these back streets to go and show you the angle from the other side of the protesters as well. So, as I said, police are stopping anyone from just making their way up. So, this is the situation outside City Hall.
You can see
So outside there, as you can see, outside there was a fire that was lit near City Hall. Police officers have been sent there to beef up security. Protesters made their way here, but they couldn't make their way past the officers who were stationed here. Now, the officers there repelled them back towards Kenyatta Avenue, as they have done all day long. So, of course, City Hall here, it's regarded as the key installation. This is where the county assembly of Nairobi is. This is where the office of the governor is on the other side. So, as I said, now police officers and protesters are challenging each other on this side. I want to give you a shot from the other side of the situation from the other end. Police officers seem to be having a fracas there with some protesters. And then the situation from this side, you can see a number of protesters that are making their way down there. So we want to use this street to show you the point of view from the other end as well.